Welcome to Making Awesome, Chapter 21. This one's a little bit odd. It's 3D printing for parents. We have our guest, Justin. Justin is pretty awesome. I know him from Matt's Marvelous Maker Meetup Discord group because Matt has a thing for alliteration. Justin's here to kind of talk about it because Justin, I know, ladies, hey, give him a second. He's got a great camera. We all know this. And if you're not watching, maybe you should. But
you could just listen to the sweet, sultry, golden tones of Justin's voice, and that'll be enough.
He's
That'll
also
give
not
you the
18.
yeah.
And apparently
It
neither
doesn't
am I when
mean
my voice cracks like that. Good
it does
Lord.
not mean he doesn't have deep golden tones, Grant.
Go for it, buddy.
You
Come
don't
on,
have
versus
to
Louis
be.
Armstrong. Let's make it happen. Now, Justin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Justin. I'm a maker, a junior in high school, and I live in Los Angeles, sunny California, and I love making everything pretty much, and use 3D printing and electronics to build different projects and work with school and other organizations depending on what's going on in the world.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're glad to have you. Tad couldn't join us this week. Tad is indisposed, we'll go with. He's okay. He's just buried under work. We're not gonna go any further into what work it is or why, but he's buried and he's unable to be with us this week. We promise he's okay. I know there have been a couple episodes now.
You could boil it down to Tad is salary, which means it's a trap.
When his day job calls him, he kind of has to answer that call. We should really look at kind of fixing those things. It's like salary non-exempt or salary exempt, where you can't earn overtime, is quite frankly BS, and I don't want to go on a diatribe about that. As a business owner, I think
we won't.
It's BS.
We won't get into it. But
no, because we definitely could. This episode's all about 3D printing for parents, and I'd like to give a shout out to my dad, Mr. Musketeers, if you will, who gave us the idea for this episode because he said, I listened to your episodes, every one of them, and that only mildly worries me, but that's fine. He said, but I don't always understand what you're talking about. And he said, I just kind of go with the flow because I like hearing you communicate with the people that you work with because it flows. And thanks, Dad. But we want to break down some of these tougher subjects because, well, my dad may not be the only parent out there listening. And we have a unique guest because Justin still lives with his folks. And he also does 3D printing and he's a maker. So the communication between the child and parent or person and parent or whatever, younger versus older, right? The level of detail you have to go into is different and the words you have to use are different. So this one should be pretty packed. So let's go for it. But before we get too deep, we can't forget about our sponsor, 3D Musketeers. As always, we are here to take your ideas from art to part. We help you make awesome at 3D Musketeers. They will always be a sponsor of this podcast as long as they continue to pay for people to be here. But if you want to make awesome, reach out to us. Links will be in the description down below. Or if you're watching us, there's a little ticker going across the screen. That just shows you where to find us. And damn it, follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and subscribe, like, comment, I don't know. Do all the things that help us grow because we would very much like to have Tad on here all the time. But we can't do that unless we have your help, the community, to pay him to be here.
To buy his freedom. That's what you're paying for.
Basically, yes, he's still under contract. If we made him an offer today, we would have to buy his freedom from the current company that he's working for.
Let's start we won't get too deep into it, but let's start a GoFundMe, buy Tad's freedom, and we could have it done by the end of the month.
With your kind of marketing, it could be, but I'm going to be concerned about some of the in the arms of an angel images that are going to come up about this.
I just want to put Tad's head on a little cherub body. That's all I want. Because that's so much to ask. I guess I could.
Wants that.
I guess I could do that just on my own time, but
He
yeah,
is your
it doesn't
brother.
feel-
That's the kind of thing you're
Yes.
allowed to do and get away with and not get yelled
Mhm.
at. But
Yeah,
I would say for good measure, let's not. You know,
not
you
associated with the company.
you edited
You don't
out
want
some
it.
very well-timed jokes on one of our most recent videos that I made, saying that it was off-brand. Well, I would say that Tad's head on a cheer-up body would also be off-brand.
To be fair, I didn't say it was off-brand. I just didn't know at the time. Remember, we're raising this child together, Grant.
Well, this child
Um,
doesn't have the perfectly clean mouth that you think it does.
And I want this child to play soccer, but you won't let him go to practice, and I just don't know, Grant.
I want him to dunk on Shaq. Okay? If Nick Cannon can do it, so can my child. Right? That was the Nick Cannon thing, right? Am I wrong? Justin, it's before your time. Don't worry about it.
I'm missing the reference here too, Grant.
Shit.
I also know
I am
nothing
the
about
oldest one
basketball.
in here by a measure of multiple years.
Old man.
I'm 31. Give me a break.
Okay, so now
Anyways,
you're going
let's
to
get
play the
into
role
it,
of
you know.
dad, and then
I'm
both
dad.
of us are going to ask you questions and explain 3D printing to you.
Well,
That's what me and Justin are going to do.
let's go over some of the basic terms that you'll hear, right? You'll hear us talking about the material. So PLA, PETG, ABS, ASA, nylon, TPU, resins. I don't get too deep into the other stuff. I mean, we've talked about DMLS, but I don't want to get too deep
I think
into
the
that.
common ones are probably good to
Yeah.
go.
Well,
And
those
basically,
are all
the
the common
short,
materials.
yeah,
and the
is the
super
short
fancy
answer
stuff.
just like plastic, right?
Right.
We're making stuff with plastic.
Right. They're all a type of thermoplastic. So the bulk of plastic that you guys get, like I have a battery bank near me. This battery bank, I'm assuming it's made out of ABS, but yeah, it feels like ABS. Yep, it's ABS. So ABS is the most common plastic. It is oil-based. But if you hear us talking about PLA, PETG, those are other plastics. They're biodegradable and recyclable. ABS is recyclable, but it is made out of liquefied dinosaurs, whereas PLA is made out of liquefied corn. Yes, those are both actually true statements. Think about it. ABS is oil-based.
How many dinosaurs have you printed with ABS?
That depends on what dinosaur you're referencing, because dinosaurs have different densities and volumes, and therefore equate to less amounts of oil or larger amounts of oil.
Well, no. I mean,
Go make a calculator for that.
yeah. I mean, have you?
We
like-
just hear Justin's MX Blue keyboard going crazy throughout this
Dude,
episode.
actually, nothing would be funnier than how many dinosaurs have I printed? The online calculator sponsored by 3D Musketeers.
I've got like 5 or 6 in a box that I forgot to ship to IC3D, but that's really about the only dinosaurs we still have around here. Oh,
Grant,
wait, no,
like,
I'm wrong.
how many,
There are
like-
safety dinos. There are safety dinosaurs. We have little toy dinosaurs everywhere throughout the shop.
Yeah, see,
It's
that's
big.
what I was curious. Like, how many?
And yes, they're made out of
physical
ABS.
form, actual dinosaurs. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, you've made dinosaurs out of what used to be dinosaurs. It's just like a full circle situation. Yeah.
Justin, maybe that's a dumb calculator we can work on. I don't know. There are so many dumb things that we've come up with here over the past couple of weeks. And if you are just joining us, go check out our social media, because we are doing some really badass stuff on there. If you have been watching the podcast on YouTube for quite some time, you'll notice behind me has changed a little bit. Yes, it is still the messy craziness that it has always been, but it is a little bit brighter. And it's because of Justin that it is a little bit brighter. And there's a camera right here-ish. It's very tough to do this without actually looking backwards. There. We are going to start time-lapsing our 3D prints, so clients that let us actually show off their stuff, that's few and far between, unfortunately, we will be able to show off how it is made. And that's a big deal, because my dad is always like, you've explained it to me. He's like, you, Grant, you've explained to me how these machines work, and I understand it because you've told me. But I don't necessarily understand from if I wasn't your dad, right? My dad is privy to more information than most because he's my dad, and I talk to him because I don't really do any other stuff. I'm stuck at home because I have a bad back and I can't go anywhere. And it's COVID, so you shouldn't be going anywhere. You should be self-isolating because we need to flatten the damn curve. And if you believe the curve has been flattened, what are you just not paying attention?
It's been a roller coaster.
Then I'm gonna flatten you with my truck. Is
Florida
what I
had
would
over
say to that person.
15,000 cases again. And guess what? The Super Bowl's coming in like 2 weeks. If
Well,
you
Grant,
don't
you are
take
a
that...
Florida man.
Huh?
Yeah,
You are a Florida
15,000
man.
people, Grant, is
A day,
about
Thomas.
a third of the population of my town right
That's,
now.
that's 15,000 new positive COVID cases in a day.
Well, so parents and 3D printing, huh?
Wear your mask.
I'm just trying to keep us on track.
Yeah, well, should we all be wearing masks? Look, the fact that we go off the rails is just, that's on brand for this podcast.
It is on brand. It makes it casual.
Yeah, but so, Justin, explain to us. So, you've done 3D printing. You have 3D printers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you go about, one, initially justifying that purchase? Like, I need this, give it to me.
That was actually my first question, is like, because obviously we don't know. Did you buy the 3D printers, or was it a parent's convincing thing?
That's a long story. I'll give the long story
Okay.
short. So I originally got a Monoprice, the Maker Plus, the Maker Select Plus, like 3 years ago. I didn't understand enough to really get it down and like the bed level or any of like the extruders or anything. I didn't understand that at first, and I ended up actually returning it because I didn't have enough knowledge about it. And then we ended up
Also
ordering
not great machines.
well, that too.
We've had them. We've had them.
Yeah.
I know they're not great from personal experience.
And then my parents ended up helping me pay for a Prusa, and I ended up getting a Mark III's, well, Mark III at the time, and that ended up letting me learn a lot more about 3D printing and what's going on, because it worked at first, and then I was able to tinker with it and start playing around and understanding all the different things that happen in the 3D printing.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw my struggles so much with the other one that they're like, okay, let's try and help you a little bit. You've either A, sliced your hand open enough times for trying to pry prints off the bed,
Word.
and just it didn't work great. So
The sharpened scraper, am I right? Right into the palm?
The battle scars, man.
Every freaking time. Every time, man.
So when you were, the first printer, yeah, whatever. So then when you did get help getting this other printer, were your parents like, I guess the question would be, they're kind of like, oh, like, what do they think of it? Is it just like fun toy, or is it like there's something more to it than that? How much do they understand about what you do with it?
well, I was able to kind of show them that, oh, look, I can even make some money back to pay for like my little portion, like doing like little prints here and there. I have Etsy, I sell a couple little things, and just depending on what is happening at the moment, like my little brother loves baseball cards. I print him little baseball card stands, and
Cool.
that I designed, and those he's brought to places, and people bought them off of him. I'm like, so you're giving me part of that, right? Those were
A hustler. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know who the entrepreneur is in the family. It's not you. No, it could be. Everybody out there has the ability to be an entrepreneur. And if you want to learn to be an entrepreneur, maybe you should look into the Making Awesome Academy. It's not yet live, so you're not going to find much of anything, but you should reach out to us and talk to us about it, because that's what that whole thing's going to be about. Yeah, I'm going to shameless plug through the whole damn thing, and I don't care what people say. It's my damn podcast, and I can do what I want. Cartman meme right here. We don't edit this. This is always a one take podcast, except I guess Joe's episode we edited a little bit, but that was just,
Well, barely. Yeah.
and Brad's
one
episode
day,
because I screwed it up.
one day you'll let me cut it. One day.
The podcast,
like a supercut one.
Mm-hmm.
That's like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin, to give you an idea,
Well, yeah, just
the
cut
video
it
of
down.
me unboxing the Saturn was almost 8 minutes straight. Thomas cut it down to less than 4 minutes by just shutting me up half the time. By just cutting out.
You gotta know where those.
relevant.
You gotta know where the hot spots are. I used to do that for a living too. Just editing video.
See, this is why we like meeting people, because you never know what people are capable of. I mean, I got to know Justin because of all this Raspberry Pi stuff, but I know there's so much more to you. I mean, hell, you just got your ham radio license. You've been messing around with software-defined radio and have been uploading images that you've captured by listening to NOAA and NOAA. That's the National Observatory for something.
I don't know off the top of my head.
You're the guy.
I don't know if I was thinking about it the other day when you mentioned it, and I was like, what does that stand
They're
for?
the hurricane.
I should know this. Like,
Look,
I did.
They track
They're the weather
hurricanes and
satellite.
Santa. That's all that people know NOAA for. Or
Yeah,
wait,
they're
is that
track
NOAA
hurricanes?
or NORAD?
I
NORAD.
really thought it was Santa.
Damn
NORAD
it.
is
NORAD is
Santa.
the one that tracks Santa. NOAA's the hurricane hunters, I thought.
But NORAD tracks every single satellite, and that's how you get all the data of the telemetry of where the satellites are and when you'll be able to actually hear and see them.
When we've been talking throughout the week, and he's had the software-defined radio on, and I'm like, is someone playing with a theremin in the background? I don't understand what the hell I'm listening to. And then all of a sudden, some police chatter comes through. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. But it's cool because there's so much to it, and I guess we have to shout out Yoey for being responsible for putting you in this position of having another hobby that you are going to get absorbed into. But when you were working on this Mark III's, you said it, you built it and it worked.
Yeah.
Did your parents' idea of 3D printing change? From oh my God, this is terrible, it's ruining all their free time. Did it change to something else?
Well, they didn't help me either of the times with like building it or technological side at all. Like that was me, but they just saw it consuming me, and just I was 13 when I first got the printer, not even, and I was just like, it was killing me trying to figure it all out. And so then once they understood that. I've showed them videos, like I proved to them that I should be getting it, like and like they're like, okay. They kind of understood a little bit of what it was, but
they knew the frustration.
They saw how difficult that one really was, and then that I was able to finally get it working and get a good print right out of the box. That was what they're like, okay, now I understand what you're trying to do with it more.
It's funny because it was roughly the same experience for Brad. He worked on a Flash Forge before his Ender 3, but his Ender 3 was effectively a dumpster fire. They're not bad printers to say anything, and I've crapped on Creality plenty of times. They cannot be fans of us, although they just followed us on Twitter, which is interesting. So what's up, Creality?
Oh yeah.
I'll give you honest reviews
Welcome
about
to
your printers.
our page, Creality.
You may not like them, but I will give you honest reviews about your printers from someone who is a professional in this industry.
Unless you pay us.
No, my opinions cannot be. My opinions cannot
I'll
be
dishonest.
strayed. I will not be dishonest.
Mine can Creality if you want to throw a few bucks this way.
You will get precisely $3.50, sir. A big fat old tree pity to make it happen. But it was Brad's exact experience, right? When he got that Prusa, and yeah, it took him God knows how long to assemble it. But once you turn it on, it does its bed leveling and it just works. It's like, holy hell, what have I been doing? And that's something that's like, I'm glad that we started with this, because that's something that parents need to understand. We recognize that a Prusa Mark III's is not cheap. They're like $800. And we recognize a Prusa Mini, which we just got 4 of. They're not set up yet. Unboxing and first thoughts coming soon. And a Prusa Mini is like a 12-week wait. We bought our Prusa Minis on Black Friday, which is like November 27th or something. And we did not get them in until the end of January of 2021. So, you're 2 months to get it. And it's because those machines are damn good. Now, of course, that's what we hear. To me, it's worth the wait. I understand an Ender 3 you can go on Amazon and have one to your door in 2 days or less, generally speaking. So there's something to be said about it. But do you as the adult, as the parent, want to be the one responsible for dealing with a frustrated child? And I think ultimately a frustrated child is more detrimental to home life than a child that's stuck in their room 3D printing. I mean, look, I know how frustrated I got as a kid. And oddly, that's part of what pushed me to be a maker, was because I was tired of doing things a certain way, because there has to be a better way. Just because, you know, a CPU cooler is the way that it is does not mean it could change. And many people thought that. And all of a sudden now we have liquid coolers that are cheap and ubiquitous and you can get for basically anything. I feel the same way with 3D printing, where, yeah, you can go spend like $200 on a 3D printer, but think about what a toy, when you're buying one of the cheaper toys versus buying one of the nicer ones, right? The nicer one can take that abuse. It can, you know, it's more user friendly. You can turn it off. Huh? All right. All of that makes a better printer a better option as far as I'm concerned. And a Prusa needs less upgrades. There's less BS. They work. And you can buy them pre-built for $1,000. If you don't want to have your kid go through the steps, you don't have to. I always recommend that you do. I think it's a great learning experience. And it's funny because I used to say kits are terrible, buy your printers pre-built.
I actually got the pre-built one. I've
you?
taken my printer apart 3 times though now. Because I wanted to, like, the first time was to do the Mark III S upgrade. It didn't need it, but I wanted to learn how the extruder and the X-axis all worked.
Right.
And learn about the different parts. And then the other was just I needed to service and change certain things that just wear down.
What did you break?
The bearings and rods. I didn't lube them.
When in doubt, lubricate. That's all I got to say about that. The bearings will shed any extra lubricant that they have that they don't need. We've made this mistake once. It's the one that Joseph has signed. It's this printer right here. And the bearings are shot. Yeah. Until they seize, I will deal with the noise. Once they seize, then we'll fix it.
I need to replace mine. Mine got really loud because I started printing those things for Jerry. It's been super loud, the Y-axis, so I'm going to have to take apart my whole printer, but that's... In a couple weeks, I'll deal with it.
It's really not that bad. If you're going to do that, I might recommend getting those MK3S clips instead of the U-bolts.
I need to order the steel sheet for my bed anyways, so that's it. I need to put some money aside. But
that's right. We were talking about that. We need to bring up that because I'm going to be making a big order from Prusa for more beds and stuff.
Okay.
It's probably cheaper for me to buy it all in and then just drop ship directly to you, but we'll figure it out eventually. But I mean, that's a big deal, right? User experience is such a big deal. And like, you know, Thomas has rammed it into my head about how user experience matters. I don't give a damn if you think the website looks like it's made for kids. If people like it, shut up. And he's right. He's absolutely right. Yeah, I said that, Thomas, and now it's on recording. He's right. And one, it's also because I pay him to know and be right about these things. But two, it's also because you have the experience, and experience matters. And a lot of times parents don't have those experiences. So, you know, we talked about materials right in the beginning: PLA, PETG, nylon, TPU, ABS, ASA. Then there's filled filaments. How do you talk about that, right? When you're say, oh, hey, I need to get another kilo. Well, you could be a Colombian drug lord, or you could be in the 3D printing industry. How do you get past those? You need what? Now, if your kid is saying they need an 8-ball of something, you should probably question it, generally speaking. But a kilo, they might be into 3D printing. Or drugs.
Really that happened this morning because we went to breakfast with my grandpa. And he was like, oh, how much does a kilogram weigh? And I said 2.2 pounds. And he was like, why do you know that? I'm like, I don't know.
'Cause I'm buying plastic on the internet all the time.
From buying plastic.
Yeah. But Grant, I mean, like, let's say we're talking directly to your father for this whole podcast.
Hi, Dad.
And I'm gonna raise a couple of flags that I bet you your dad was already like, they just did the thing again. So we just talked about a multitude of things that were, I'm taking my printer apart to service it, period. And then there were a few things about servicing the printer that was, we're talking about bearings. We're talking about an X and Y axis on the printer. We're talking about a print bed. We talked about getting a steel plate. All of these things. So, I mean,
Yeah, you're
as
right.
far as those
I don't
go,
remember how
props.
technical things go.
but as
Right,
far
get
as
the
that
props.
goes, I think if you know generally how machines work, and
Yeah, like
in general, those things are normal, but like, are these things, say, if you are a parent and your kid's going to be working on these things, it can't hurt to familiarize yourself maybe with
absolutely.
some of these concepts just to be able to help and know where they are in the printer or what they do in the printer. Like,
Yeah.
because I bet you some people are like, why do I need bearings in a printer? Like, you should explain that to me
Lulzbot
right
said
now,
the same
Grant.
thing. Why do we need bearings in a printer? So they didn't put any in there.
Well, yeah, but yeah, in the Prusa's case,
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah.
most even cheaper 3D printers are going to come with bearings, and similar to wheel bearings in your car. If they start to
Paper
make
bearings.
noise, it's time to replace them. And for those of you that drive old cars, you probably need to replace your wheel bearings. But yes, servicing it is a big deal. And the reason we're constantly talking about Prusa, hey Joe, sponsor
How's it
us
going?
and
Please.
such, please. Yeah, that'd
Thanks
be
for
great.
being open source, by the way.
Yeah, it's pretty great because when we are redoing my office, we're doing a full CAD model of the office. The Prusa Mark 3S is just a
Oh,
CAD
yeah.
model you can download and toss it
Oh.
on the shelves.
Well, that's like what we were
Grant, I'm
talking
gonna-
about for the Mini on Friday night call about trying to align those T-nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled up the CAD model right there because
Yep.
Prusa pushes all their CAD models, so I can go and try and play around with figuring out the best way to align those
Yeah.
So-
T-nuts would be.
What's up,
Grant,
Thomas?
for no reason whatsoever, those CAD models of those Prusa printers, do you have in those models? Do you have all of like the connections and cords and things? Are those
Yes.
included at all?
Yes.
Can you send me one of those?
Yeah, they're online.
Thomas,
I can-
what
just
are
straight
you
up.
doing?
I don't worry about it.
I'll send them in the Discord
Thomas.
later.
Need one. I'll show you later.
Thomas.
I'll show you later.
And so, if you're listening audio only, this may not make any sense to you, but I'm holding up the assembly instructions for the Prusa Mark 3S. It is a thick boy. It's
Use the
well over
online
100
one.
pages. You can use the online one. And
Because
that's
it has
fine.
comments on like little tips and tricks, especially for the extruder and a couple things. People
Is
write
there
comments,
two? Oh,
like
from
other
users.
people, like from users who have put the printers
Oh.
together.
Oh, cool.
I didn't know
And
that.
they're updated more constantly because the books aren't as updated as
Right.
the online one
This
for
book
sure.
is circa 2009. This is version
So-
3.12.
Yeah.
But,
So I'm gonna like go back again, and I want to like make this as simplified as possible because I think also like, you know, not everyone even knows what a bearing is, Grant. To be completely
if they're listening to a
straightforward with
podcast
you.
about making awesome, should we assume they know what a bearing is? All right.
We
How many of
could.
you remember fidget spinners? Those
That's
used
a bearing.
bearings.
Done.
Have one.
It makes it spin good, basically.
Yeah,
and so
bearings remove friction due to certain mathematics and stuff.
and what do they move in the printer, Grant? What do they do?
The bearings allow the axes to move with minimal amounts of friction. So the x-axis, which goes this way, y-axis, which is,
Mm-hmm.
forward and away from you, and the z-axis, which is up and down. There are bearings on all of those to make sure that there is the least amount of friction possible, because friction
And
equals heat, which equals loss of energy and power.
yep. And those axes are what are moving the extruder, which is
No,
And
the extruder's another act. Well, sometimes. So on basic 3D printers like a Prusa, they are Cartesian, which means they are kind of like a computer-controlled Etch-a-Sketch, if you want to be real simple about it. One motor moves up and down, One motor moves left and right. Then there's one motor that also goes up and down. But on these, the build plate, so the actual thing that you make your parts on, where the hot glue gun squirts crap onto, that moves forward and backwards, okay? And that's all that one does. Then you have the x-axis, which is attached to the z-axis, which has the e-axis on it. Now we're going to back up. X-axis is the left to right, okay? The z-axis is what moves you up and down, and that is controlled by screws. Technically, they're lead screws, but we don't have to get into all that kind of crap. But they're screws that move the machine up and down. Some machines use belts. Most of them use screws. The Prusa has 2 motors. The Prusa Mark IIIS has 2 motors. And they work in unison to move the x-axis up and down. On that x-axis, which moves left and right, is the e-axis, otherwise known as the extruder. The extruder is a motor that pulls filament through it and into the hot end. The hot end is a hot glue gun. Let's just go with the fact that it's a hot
fancy
glue gun.
hot glue gun.
It is. It's
fancy hot glue gun.
But that's really, if you want to boil a 3D printer down, it is a computer-controlled hot glue gun. That is what they are. Well, the ones, if you're looking at buying a 3D printer for your kids, and they've never done 3D printing, and you're looking at a resin printer, stop. If it involves a liquid, stop. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
I won't buy one. And I've been 3D printing for over 3 years now, and I won't buy a resin right now. I don't have room and or
I have
capabilities
9 of them now, and I just learned about some of the dangers 2 weeks ago.
Of doing the cleaning and some of the dangers of the resin. I don't have the room or the infrastructure to be able to do the correct things and safely.
Proper protocol safely.
Yeah, you need a bit of PPE to do it.
Yep, and if one thing 2020 taught us is PPE matters. But, on those machines, some machines like the Ender 3 are not direct drive. Their E-axis does not move. Well, no, the Ender 3's E-axis is attached to the Z, right? I think it is. It's not direct drive.
There's a lot of axes.
It's on the X. It sits on the X motor pretty much.
Some printers are direct drive where the motor sits directly above the hot end. Some of them are called Bowden. Bowden. They use PTFE or Delrin tubes. And the extruder is off of the print head. And that is done to reduce the moving weight of the machine. You need a tube to connect them. The Fusion 3 F410, which you can see behind me, the big one with the lid open, that is a Bowden printer. Bowden printers come with some extra problems that you don't see out of direct drive printers. However, if they're built really well, they can move incredibly fast. The Fusion 3, its movement speed is 400 millimeters a second. You cannot move a Prusa 400 millimeters a second. It will not do it. They're way too heavy. There's too much moving mass. It can't work. Clearly, someone is trying to talk to Justin, and he's like, "What's going on? I'm recording, damn it!"
Yeah.
But yes, certain 3D printers have different features. And if you are confused, if you are listening and you're like, "I still don't effing get it," just call us 813-803-4973. I will go over things with you personally. Because the last thing we want to do is have you buy something or have your kid buy something and it turns into a bad experience. Ultimately, what we are trying to do is provide better user experiences in this industry. Because if we have more people like Justin and like Brad have crappy experiences with Ender 3s or MP Select Pros and all that crap that don't have the kind of fortitude to keep pushing and say, this is what I want to do, they're going to say, well, this industry sucks and I hate it. And that's not how we move forward as an industry. Now, by and large, these cheaper 3D printers can only print certain materials. So, noted, do not print ABS. ABS is styrene-based. And if any of you have ever burned plastic, you know the smell I'm talking about. So if any of you have small kids that are makers, you know the smell that I'm talking about, the burning plastic smell. it sucks, and you don't want it permeating into your furniture. So don't use ABS. It's that simple.
And it's
PLA,
carcinogenic.
huh?
And ABS is carcinogenic.
Okay, but honestly, what plastic isn't?
Oh yeah, but
Right?
it's more than
I
other plastics.
I'm curious, Justin, like how you said you started 3D printing basically when you were 13, and that was kind of your first kind of, jump into it. How? Like where
Yeah, what was that impetus that got you there?
what made you decide that that was the thing that you wanted at the time?
Well,
Because I feel like, it's kind of a different thing for a kid to be like, I want a 3D printer.
Well, I probably wanted one for 3 years even before that. Like probably when
Okay.
like Joel Telling started having his videos when he first got that Flash
Mhm.
Forge. I remember when he first got that monoprice printer like years ago when MakerBots were still made out of wood, and that's really I wanted to be into that 3D printing and finally was able to actually get into it once it became a little bit more mainstream and easier to get
Yeah.
into.
What
Not
about it? What about 3D printing? And what about those videos drew you in? Because obviously it's cool because it's like cool technology, but like, was it like the freedom of like making things with it or being able to use a computer with something? Because like, I play with clay. Like I make stuff out of clay. I don't 3D print things, but it's like, where was the interest that really made you jump, do
yeah,
it?
so I'm not
Instances.
like I can't do like put something into clay or draw really well. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not how I can understand how to make something.
Mm-hmm.
Like so doing like something like Blender or something and I'm taking like a ball of clay and designing it doesn't click. But I taught myself fusion and that like being able to make my own things like making on some projects that don't want to be talking everywhere about, but just being able to have another way of manufacturing without having to go and try and cut it out of wood or try and cut
Mm-hmm.
it out with a cardboard box. I'd rather be able to make like an enclosure or different ways of just manufacturing really interested me. And because I do a lot of I love electronics. I love Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, everything. And so just having that extra layer of making something look cool and being able to have it that it looks a little presentable and not just like a board sitting in a hat. It's like I can make a little box that connects to the side of the hat so I can have lights on it or whatever. That's those different ways of manufacturing and just the community as well was really cool. Is
Mm-hmm.
what really drew me in.
That's something that I found to be quite interesting because up until 6 months ago, I was not a part of any of the Discords. I was on Reddit. I don't go on Facebook. I don't do social media. So yes, if you are seeing social media for 3D Musketeers, it's not me doing it. It's probably Thomas. Yeah.
How's it
Yeah.
going?
I might approve copy and all that and just make sure things don't look stupid. But if they do look stupid, blame me. If they look great, blame Thomas. That's how that
If
goes.
you're not talking directly to Grant, and you see something on social media, chances are it's me. It's my voice.
Magic.
Yeah, magic.
But
But it looks like Grant.
I I was getting pretty burned out in this industry, and the communities are awesome. And something Brad, I've never told this to Brad. Brad's mom actually, I know Brad's family really well. Brad was a student of mine at Academy at the Lakes before I knew him professionally, right? So Brad's mom reached out and said, "Hey, I see Brad's on these Discords. Anything I need to be worried about?" I said, "No, not really. Some people just kind of suck, you know." There are not for kids channels, but
Stay away.
you guys are listed as actual kids, so you can't see them.
Stay away.
That one's
Yeah, Matt has a designation for actual kids and not actual kids, and not actual kids can see the not safe for work channels that are on
Oh, that's hilarious.
the Discord. Well, because there are some important things that occur in this industry surrounding more adult themed topics that until you hit 18, it's not right to go that route. And I told I was telling Brad's mom about this. She's like, yeah, I really don't care about that because if he wanted to, it's the internet. It's not that hard.
It's not hard.
She was more worried about the people, and I have never found communities of people with more support in there. I mean, I feel like specifically Billy Rubin's Discord is like support 95% of the time. It's just like human to human support. It's not fixing printers, it's fixing people. Matt's Discord, at least half of those channels are just us talking to each other about life. And yeah, we'll hit actual printer subjects every now and then, but a lot of it's more cathartic for all of us because we all get stressed out during our days, and burnout is real. And anyone that's been through this 2020 pandemic and has actually taken it seriously understands that burnout is real. And these communities are a great way to, instead of complaining to your parents, you can go to the community and ask. I mean, I've particularly seen Brad go from someone who would be texting me a lot. Like, I would hear from Brad at least 3 or 4 times an hour, every hour that he was awake. Guaranteed. And that's okay. He's learning, he's interested, and I have the knowledge that he needs to get up and working. But now I see him so much more on the forums and on the Discord, and even further, he's helping other people. And that to me is what it's all about, right? You get the knowledge, and then when the new you comes in, right, where they don't know what they're doing, you can be that guiding light to bring them to the promised land that is Joseph Prusa. And that's a big thing. The community matters so much. I'm not a huge fan of the Facebook communities. I think a lot of them can be incredibly toxic, but Billy's Discord and Matt's Discord specifically are
Don't
really...
put your children on Billy's, though.
Huh?
Billy doesn't want kids on hers, from what we learned.
Yes, that is true.
Oh, did you guys get kicked off?
No, we never got. We asked before we joined, and she said don't join. She said you shouldn't, and we just were like,
yeah, her not safe for work channel tends to be way more like PC.
Way more not safe for...
No, it's literally most of her not safe for work channel's been us talking about mental health, and in the general has been talking about very, very, very not safe for work things, and just, you know, how certain industries have moved this industry along with others to be different.
Yeah, she doesn't have like how Matt has like the separate roles and stuff as well.
Designations.
She does, but not as clear cut as Matt does. Yeah. Matt will keep you from seeing it. Billy's, you can see it, but you must confirm that you are over the age of 18. And at that point, you better know what you're getting yourself into. But yeah, Billy's is certainly more designed for the older kids, you know, 18 and above. But yeah, Matt's is awesome. And of course, we have that weekly meetup where we're all just hanging out on Zoom. I thought last week's was so great when we got Amber on for the first time. And my cat, Victoria, joined us for most of it because Amber was there and the cat likes to lay on Amber. But, you know, it was... That to me is what these communities are all about, right? Us helping each other, showing off what we're doing. Like, I could definitely figure out how to do a Raspberry Pi and how to do all the setups myself, but it would be a whole lot easier if I had someone else showing me how to do it, because then I'm not going to brick a Raspberry Pi, probably. I'm not going to make the wrong mistakes, probably. And
so, Grant, I'm going to do it again. I'm rolling you back.
What a Raspberry Pi is.
Okay, because we have talked about this. There's a few things. And again, I know all these things, but I'm doing it for the sake of the podcast. So we said a few things. I like this game, actually. I should be policing you every episode. So we did say this a while ago, and I just let it go. But we did say Raspberry Pi. And to a lot of people, that's a delicious dessert, not a computer. So
hold on,
let's have Justin explain this.
Let me find out.
No, I wouldn't eat that, Grant. Grant, we already talked about the safety things that you didn't know about with resin
like
printers.
It tastes like fiberglass.
Yeah, so no, guys, we can't eat these. But Justin, what is a Raspberry Pi? Why are they all over the place?
Like it smells.
And like, what's the point of one? Like, if you went up to your parents, say you're younger, you don't have a job, whatever, you don't have income, and you want to be able to use a Raspberry Pi to do something either involving your printer or not, or just making something. Like, when a kid asks their parents, or anyone tells their parents about a Raspberry Pi, what does it mean?
A Raspberry Pi is a credit card sized computer.
Like
They're
literally.
literally a credit card size computer. They even have a tinier one. This one is.
This is not a credit card. This is my insurance card. I don't care if you can pull information from it. Can you? Nope.
I would just drop it.
Yeah,
Just
there. I'll cover
It's
that.
not
There
worth
you go.
it.
Roughly the same size.
it's out
The
of
front
focus
of it
anyway.
is the one that matters. The back of it just has a barcode. But yes, it is roughly the size of a credit card. They're microcomputers. It is more powerful than most cell phones. This Raspberry Pi
It's about a cell phone.
yeah, it's about
Powerful.
a cell phone worth of power. But you can do crazy things with it. To give you an idea, we have custom software on it, and it's attached to a 3D printer. And it enables the 3D printer to time-lapse the 3D print. Oh, Justin, you went letterbox again.
Huh.
Oh,
There you go.
this kid. I see what he's doing. He's
Hold on.
he's going to pull up his pie.
If it loads.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't like
Yeah,
loading.
Justin, oddly enough, might be the youngest here, but he's the most tech savvy by a large stretch, by a large margin.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh,
Justin, can you
nice.
move it into the
Cool.
center? Okay, there it is.
Yep.
That's my info. But that's my call sign.
Ah, yes. So if you're a ham radio operator, Justin, do you want to shout out your call sign?
Oh, sure. You'll know where I live, but I don't really care. It's Kilo November 6 Mike Whiskey Echo.
And if you don't know what that means, don't bother looking it up.
I'm pretty sure my ham radio call sign, because I have one in, when my brother has one in his car. I'm pretty sure mine is like pudding cup. Yeah, that's it. That's a good one.
No, but that's not your real.
No, that's the
That's
ham
not the one
radio.
that
You
you-
have to go and.
It's not my real one. It's a trucker radio.
Oh.
It's just a
Oh,
trucker
so
radio.
CB.
Yeah.
It is a-
Yeah.
Yeah, a CB.
CB
yeah, there
and
we
ham
go.
are
Yeah.
way different, but that's another.
They're all
episode.
radios, Grant.
Yes.
Yeah, so
right. Just like
basically,
all 3D printers
Raspberry
are the same.
Pi is making it
It's a
possible
tiny
for
badass microcomputer that you
loading
can get.
programs onto it. To do
I
You
the
can
thing.
get
run-
the cutest little heat sinks for them. Look at this.
Oh, you
Tell
bought
me
them?
this is- yes, I did. Tell me this is not the most adorable little heat sink that you've ever seen in your life.
That is
Yeah,
really
I-
cute. It's got a tiny fan on it too.
I
That's
use.
so
I have
tiny.
that exact fan. I run a little hard drive plugged into it, and that's my NAS. I have 3.5
NAS
terabytes of
stands
NAS
for
storage.
network attached storage. That means he can access the storage anywhere in his house at any time.
From any of my devices, so if I take a picture on my phone, I can go get it on my computer, or
It's
vice
basically
versa.
like Apple's AirDrop, but not.
And I also
Local
have,
to a network.
Yes. Although you could log in from exterior, but we're
Yeah, I don't have-
again beyond the scope of this podcast.
yeah, and I
Cool.
also have what's called a Pi hole, which blocks ads and
What'd you
trackers
call
and
me?
DNS.
It's
You're
a
a
Pi
Pi hole.
Yeah.
No,
So-
these things are great, and they
Yeah.
start at
It's
like
so much.
$35. So if your kid is into programming, get them one of these because they're
This
dope.
one's 10. This is a
Drops.
0W,
Didn't know this was
and
Linus
it's-
Tech Tips.
and it's $10. And then they also came out with the Picos. Yes, I feel like I'm Jerry right now. I have them in arm's reach.
Yeah. They're just everywhere.
And then the Pico is a
I-
microcontroller,
Yep.
and that's different. That's like what's running your printer at what would be running inside of the printer, or it's similar to an Arduino.
Yeah.
If-
If that, yeah, and I mean that's getting even more, beyond the scope. But basically, computer parts that, when you learn to use them properly,
They're
or
incredibly
want
valuable.
to, you can make things happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they're very
So
inexpensive.
it's a way to talk. Yeah, it's a way to talk to the machine with code from a computer. Yeah,
And like you can set
so
up the
if you were
cameras
doing
and the
things that aren't, so if it's not a purely mechanical thing that you're doing, which is like what we were talking about earlier, which is I need to, oil or grease my bearings. You could take apart the printer and do that.
Yep.
This is on the side of what if I
Software.
wanted my printer to act differently? Yeah, software
Yep.
versus hardware.
Yeah.
Which is really cool that in the maker community that everyone's kind of doing all sorts of crazy stuff on both ends, with both software and hardware, and it's kind of it's a good time. I like when we were talking about communities though, because I find it encouraging, and I like it too. I don't really do a lot of 3D printing, but I'm part of all these communities
Yeah,
now
you
because
are.
I'm involved in it.
Yep.
Which is really fun. But I've always liked that because I mean, artists have the same thing. If I didn't have people to talk to about Blender like I do, then I would have a headache like all times of the day. But you know, it's people making YouTube videos and even just having talks like this on a Discord. I think Discord is great. So if parents, if you are watching this and you are worried that your kid is on Discord, chances are it's completely fine and it's very normal.
Unless they're in the Wall Street Bets Discord, and then they're either
That's
blowing
gone.
their...
That one's gone. That one's gone.
It is gone. Yeah. But
So that was a thing that happened this past week.
Recently. Yeah. But it's a very positive experience. And what I've noticed with the 3D printing community in general, and even just meeting Justin today, is just like, oh my God, there are so many people represented in this community, from age to life experience to like realms of what they do, because we've met all sorts of people. Like we had a patent attorney who's a 3D printer.
Yep.
And loves 3D printing. And also, I mean, he also had what, 2 other degrees, one in electrical engineering or mechanical,
he
or
was a very intelligent individual.
something, chemical engineering. Like he did a bunch of stuff. So he was incorporating a lot of electronics and everything into his 3D prints, which are really awesome, like little doors and things that would be activated
Cool.
by motion sensors and stuff. And like, it just shows that there's so much imagination that can go into this. And if your kid is getting into it, this is a pretty cool thing for your kid to be getting into.
It is.
It's a really good crossroad between art and science. It encompasses the entire STEAM, is what I think of it.
The entire STEAM. What does STEAM stand for?
Science, technology, engineering, art, and math.
There you go. See, and if you're a parent, you don't know what STEAM means, your child is not looking to be a train conductor, although they might be, but likely they're not. They're looking to do stuff that is pretty dope in all the fields of
I've
sciences.
actually never heard STEAM. It's like adding an A to STEM, which is so nice.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
In there. That's so great.
And like for 3D printing, I feel like especially, I'm not an artist by any chance. I can't draw, as I said before.
No, but I'll get into it, and I'm going to stop you right there, Justin. If you're making things with the intent of being art, you're an artist. There's no qualification. No one's gonna police you because you can't draw. That doesn't make you an artist. Like,
yeah.
But yeah,
there's so much to make and do that. There's so many different ways you can go in, and that 3D printing is part of that crossroad. Like even now in ham radio, this antenna that I have, there's 3D printed parts on it, and this was a commercially available antenna. It's not like there's so much where ham radio 3D printing intercepts in so many different hobbies and education.
Justin is the perfect person to be talking about this, because we've talked about this on the podcast before about how 3D printing can be that perfect bridge between arts and science and engineering, because I've talked about it before, and I'll say it a billion more fucking times in my life, is that artists and engineers are so not very far apart, and the only separation is what they do and is the
also
end
charisma.
Product and the end use. I mean, sometimes there's plenty of charismatic engineers.
No, there are not. If you are a charismatic engineer and need a job doing CAD, info@3dmusketeers.com.
Yeah.
Email. Call me, 813-803-4973. We are actively hiring charismatic engineers. If your kid is a charismatic engineer, I don't care how old they are. Are you calling them?
Let's get him on!
The problem if you're under 18 is it becomes complicated. We'll figure it out. But
not too complicated.
I have some.
If you could figure out.
I'm removed from Twitter, Justin. Because you're too young.
But no, I mean, going back on it, it's so awesome because I feel like 3D printing is kind of helping mark this period in time where we've been separated for so long. Absolutely. As far as thinking goes. And I think a certain amount of separation,
it's healthy.
There's a reason for it. And there's you are either doing something really specifically, but there is a point in the middle, and graphic designers particularly sit closer to that middle line between like objective, like we are accomplishing goals, which is what engineers do a lot of the time, which is like, I will solve a problem by making this thing. And designers are doing the same thing, except ours is oftentimes visual. We do some product design.
Right.
But the fact that we do product design, my older brother, Tad, who's a mechanical engineer, does product design. And so we do the same thing, but we do not have the same degrees. But are we both qualified to do it for different reasons? 100%. And that's so cool because we can both do 3D printing totally on different sides of the spectrum, doing very similar things. And if we work together, it gets like even better. And so mixing those people is like, and the fact that Justin's even talking about this and we didn't have to say it means that you get it. And that means other people your age get it. And we're just like, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Other people his age get it. It's the people that are my age and older that don't. I still think to this day, Tad's greatest downfall in working with us is that he did not introduce us to you, Thomas, earlier. Because I think as a company, we could have been so much further along had we actually had someone that knew what they were doing for marketing, and I was not constantly getting screwed by people who lied to me and provided us with plagiarized content. And Justin, that's another talk for another day where I'm going to get real pissed and say things that I don't want to go on record saying.
Yeah. To be fair, I am not specifically a marketing professional. I just work in the field and I know how it works.
You're marketing adjacent.
Working level. Yes, I'm a marketing adjacent person. Yeah. I'm technically a designer, not a marketer, but I can do it.
But you have the knowledge.
I can't.
Yeah, I do have the knowledge. Yeah.
The big difference is I can't. I have 2 business degrees, and in none of those was marketing ever a concentration for me.
Or 3D printing.
Or 3D.
Oh, shit, that's right.
But Grant, that goes to show you that no matter what your career path
you can
is,
teach an old dog
I
new
love
tricks.
how 3D printing is this very accessible art form and also technical, either hobby or sometimes not hobby, right? You can get into it at any level.
You should always start as a hobby. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that we could give a parent is do the things your kid would do. What are they going to do? They're going to go to YouTube. They're going to start watching YouTubers. Maybe you should watch more episodes of the Making Awesome podcast because we go over some things you might find interesting. They should be watching Joel Telling the 3D Printing Nerd, Tom's 3DP. I don't know how to say his last name. Sandletterer.
I thought you were about to say my name, and I'm like, Grant, I don't make 3D printing videos.
Well, you might have to start.
What kind of videos do you make, Thomas?
I gotta get started. Have you not seen my YouTube channel, Grant?
Shit.
Oh, wow, you haven't seen my YouTube channel, Grant. That's embarrassing.
I don't know your YouTube channel. But, there's Tom's 3D Printing, there's the 3D Printing Nerd, there's Angus from Maker's Muse, Stefan of CNC Kitchen, Billy's starting to get better. I don't...
Oh, Faye
as well. They're getting better.
Faye is really...
I believe, though, that parents should start with one of the larger channels and work their way into the niches. I think if you start in the niches, because remember, these bigger channels are making content that is more broadly accepted. When you look at, like, Faye's most recent video that we all love, not that we sponsored it or anything, but we love it, was her time-lapse video. And oddly, that's what has pushed me to start doing time-lapses because, well, it's badass marketing. And, that is really cool, but as a parent starting in this industry and trying to learn it, that's a bad video to start with because you don't know what the hell they're saying half the time. It makes more sense for you to start on like a basics video. We should probably do some basics videos now that I think about these things.
I was going to say a lot of these things where we're talking on the Making Awesome podcast with assuming people know a lot of these things, it might be super helpful. Like, well, because Grant, all of your Prusa minis are unassembled, right? You didn't buy any assembled versions.
They are.
Yeah?
Well, they're sort of.
Yeah, they're kind of assembled kits. So when I bought these printers, this was the most kit that they offered for these. They did not offer the full kit, which they still don't offer as of recording of this podcast.
I was going to say the next.
Huh?
They might be out of stock.
Well, they're out of stock. That does not mean they're sold, right?
Yeah.
So I think the next times that you have a situation where you either have to service a printer, something simple even, I think it's very worth it to just document the process in video and put it up on YouTube. Because then if someone really does have that question and they're like, oh my God, level a bed plate? And you're like, okay.
You don't gotta do that on a Prusa. It does it for you.
Well, not on a
We
Prusa,
need
but
Prusa affiliate links.
people. I know we really do, man. We've been trying.
If Joe would let me do something like that, we would be doing it.
We should just be adding them on Twitter every time,
Get
every
Matt,
day.
Matt is the person that we need to talk to.
Okay, I know that Matt's the person that we need to talk to, but remember, my relationship with Matt is not just business, it's also personal, and you don't want to muddy that water. I know Joe.
Oh, you're not supposed to muddy that water. I've been muddying that water for years.
Well, so what happens is when you muddy that water, if the business goes wrong, it looks poorly upon you personally. Unless the person truly understands how this shit works, and not a lot of people do. I've known Joe for years, but Joe and I don't talk, right? I knew Joe from the Rep Rap project when he was involved with it, when I was involved with it, back before Justin likely has memories. 2008. Do you remember 2008?
Barely.
That is a weird thing to think about, and it's it's making me feel old.
I'd be 4.
I was 18.
Oh my god.
It's still crazy to me that they're, you know, like,
I'm so old.
I relive September 11th because it was just something that happened when I was a kid. You were born after that, and that's just weird for me to take in. I'm like, this was a big deal. It's like the Challenger explosion for my father, right? People that were born after it, it's like, wait, oh, that's right, you weren't around when the world changed.
And that's how we're going to feel about 2020.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly how we're going to feel. Oh, you were born in 2024? Oh, you don't know, do you? But, you know,
you didn't have to wear masks.
I love that. That means people can't see the disdain faces that I make at them. Or the things that I mouth underneath my breath. But, you know, the thing with parents is if you can be educated and you can build this as an education source and entertainment for your kids, because a lot of the channels that we mentioned, Faye, Billy, Joel, Tom, Angus, Stefan, they're all entertaining as well. And so this can be something where, you know, every day after school, you sit down with the kiddos and you watch a couple of Tom's videos and you're getting educated at the same time you're getting interested. And I think that their videos are designed for all ages, right? They're not cussing. They're not dropping F-bombs like we do.
And then if you had a 3D printer right there, then you could also be running a print. It's just like, you know, whole families there.
Right? That education up front is good. And I recommend that you do some education up front, whether that's maybe join the Making Awesome Academy and taking our classes about 3D printing, or that it's not yet live. Don't at me. It's a lot of work. Or it's watching videos on YouTube that, you know, big YouTubers or smaller YouTubers are doing.
There's incredible just engineering channels in general that I watch, and I'm not an engineer, but man, is it a good time to see people making cool stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And makes me want to do it too. And I know a lot more about like machining than I could ever do myself, but if someone asked me, it would sound like I knew what I was doing.
Thomas, I need to cut this aluminum. What do I need to do?
All right, Grant, do you have a diamond tip?
Yeah. Go get the plasma cutter.
I don't have one of those.
Well, that's the next purchase, Grant.
Yeah, that is the next one. Come on,
I don't
Grant.
have a welder. Why would I get a plasma cutter without a welder?
I'll learn how to weld.
I'll
get the Welding for Dummies book. I'll learn how to weld. You get the plasma cutter.
I actually know how to weld. Don't ask why, but I do.
I have a stick welder. I've never once used it. It was a gift from an old buddy of mine.
Harbor Freight?
Oh, no. Sears.
Mm.
So it weighs about 130 pounds because it is a big-ass transformer. That's all that it is. It's a big transformer. But, yeah, he was like, I'm getting rid of it. Do you want it? I'm like, does it work? He said, plug it in. Whoa! I'm like, yes, I want this. My initial goal was to turn it into a Tesla coil, but then I realized it'd be incredibly deadly and incredibly heavy, so I opted to do neither of those things. But yeah, I think that getting educated is awesome, and I think one of the big things that parents can do, and I think mine have done a pretty stellar job, is make sure that you remain interested in the industry, right? The fact that my dad listens to every podcast is both really cool to me and incredibly scary, because he knows me better than most people for very hopefully obvious reasons. And so that means he knows, like, why aren't you doing this? What's going on? He can pick up on nuances that other people don't understand or don't recognize. And he's critical, but he's critical in a good way. He's like, you really should look at changing this. And he said, I really can't see the printers. I wish you had lighting. And I have lighting now. It's a little bright because I need a better camera. We're going to get there. This is a baby steps that cost me lots of money that we don't have because, marketing is expensive. Yep.
So join the making us.
And the funny thing is,
exactly.
the funny thing is, the only paid job we've had from the podcast went right to Thomas. It was a dog, and right before we started recording, they thanked us in Billy's Discord because they found us through Billy's Discord. They listened to the podcast. They heard about Thomas doing the animals. They sent Thomas a picture of their dog. He did the drawing. It's crazy the way this world can connect.
They were like, I don't want to work with you after the podcasts.
Yeah, but they're like, that Thomas guy, though, man, does he draw a dog or what? He sure does.
He draws a great cat, I'll tell you that much. I don't know about dogs.
Cat, too, yeah.
Cats are pretty dope.
Yeah. I've always wanted to, if you're listening to this episode and you want an animal portrait and you have birds, I'd love to draw a bird. I haven't done them yet.
My friend has a really cute little, I can't think of what kind of bird. It's a little yellow and green thing. It's like this big.
Oh, yeah, like a, what are they called? Why can't I think of them?
I don't know what it's called. I'll get a picture.
The Bath Bomb client, Thomas, has a gorgeous macaw.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, see, I've been, I don't know how much, like, I don't know if birds really look different than, like, another bird you would just have. Because, dogs got a lot of personality. So someone would recognize it like, oh, that's a drawing of my dog. But I'd be worried that I would just do a drawing of a bird and they'd be like, that's not my bird. And I'm like, I don't know how to make it different than other birds.
That's why we don't do ultrasound 3D prints anymore. Because babies in utero are pretty damn ugly. And because they're not fully formed
Holy
humans
cow,
yet.
have you done that before?
Yes.
There was a really cool story
those?
about that.
Yes. We
Whoa.
were one. So
What?
the one that you see, we did not do. There is a news story about the one that we did. And you see what looks like a very small child because that was revision 6. Because we did it identical to the ultrasound. The baby had no nose. The eyes were much closer than you would think because, they're growing. And they're kind of ugly. Well, that doesn't look like my baby. No, it does look like your baby. Your baby just looks really weird because it's still growing.
To be fair, I've never thought that a fetus was particularly attractive. Well,
that's good because you'd be on a list if you did.
I said aesthetically, Grant.
Look, I'm not here to judge.
They look like. Don't baby rat fetuses look like wildly similar to human fetuses at a certain stage in development or something?
I'm not certain, and I'm not adding that to my search history. This is
I
about
will.
3D printing
I don't
for
care.
parents. We go off the damn rails.
Oh yeah. So no, we're actually perfectly on the rails. So if you want a 3D print of your child that has yet to be born, Grant is not doing them anymore, unfortunately.
No,
we are on the rails because that's apparent. Justin will do it because that's a parent thing.
ZBrush?
I'll learn.
You'll figure it out.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, let me present you Exhibit 1 of an overly confident child that is not certain of the world he's about to fall into. ZBrush is atrocious. It is one of the worst programs I've ever used. But it is the only
Justin,
one
have you
that's
ever
good.
touched Blender? Have you ever touched Blender at all?
Do you hate
Okay,
it?
great. Then it's no worse than that.
It's way worse than Blender. Justin, where is the
I've touched
file?
ZBrush.
So when you want to save something, you go to File, Save, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so where's that in most programs?
In the top left.
Okay, where is it in ZBrush?
I have no clue.
It's in the middle.
Yeah,
because
in the middle.
all the menus in ZBrush are alphabetical.
Yeah.
And
to be completely fair, you could probably get a plugin to fix that.
You probably can, but it's an $800 piece of software. Now, I know you. there are seas that you can sail to find it. But we do not condone illegally
Don't do it.
downloading software.
Well,
Don't
if
do that.
Justin's a student,
Spend your hard-earned rupees.
oftentimes there's really good.
Not for ZBrush.
Oh, well, if you want to, Justin, here's a tip. When you go to college, get a Cinema 4D license. They're free for like 400 days.
I have an EDU email because I took some college classes over the summer.
Dude, all they need is basically
this kid
that.
trying to get his life in check and
You
get
get like
ahead of things.
400 days. It's crazy. Like It's such a long free trial. It's fun. It's a good time.
Yeah, I get Fusion
into
for
that.
free because I'm a student, and so I use to learn.
I've always thought we should just like grab the domain 3dmusketeers.edu so we can make as many.
I don't think you can just get them. They're hard to get EDU ones specifically, I thought.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Now I have to know, but I mean,
I'm
nonetheless.
Another thing for parents, a lot of these programs are available at least with educational licenses or cheaper for education.
You don't even have to be in
That's a
college.
really
You don't
good
have to have EDU emails if you prove your kid's in school, and you'll be able to get it for free. Like Fusion, I got because I was in middle school, and I still have my license because
You're still in school.
It's an unsupported top-level domain. Damn it! How the hell do I get an EDU website?
Pay lots of money and actually are an EDU.
Yeah.
Wait, we're gonna have the Making Awesome Academy. Don't tell me that's not an educational institute.
It's only for like universities and stuff. Like my school is .net and .org because we have to have enough domains for the emails.
Yeah,
for students.
That's hilarious. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, I guess like did we miss anything that parents need to know about 3D printing, et cetera, et cetera?
I think the biggest thing about it is just be interested, at least in the beginning. Because if you're just using it to get little Timmy to leave you alone, it's not going to end up well. Make this a family thing. Give them challenges. Like my dad is giving me challenges. I'm not entirely sure what they are, but I have a feeling they're going to be outside of my scope of design, but that's what we have designers for.
That's why we have Thomas.
What up?
No, 3D modeling. Thomas doesn't do 3D modeling. That's Tad.
Yeah, I do.
Others.
I just don't do accurate 3D modeling. I do like pretty stuff that's non-functional.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in VR.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, VR.
For me, that's the biggest thing for parents is if you're looking to get a 3D printer in your household, just do it. Well, one, yes, just do it.
Do it.
Make sure. God, that clipped.
Get it done.
All of a sudden, what is this? Shia LaBeouf? All of a sudden.
All right.
For me, it's just about making sure that you know what you're getting yourself into before the train leaves the station, and
it gets expensive.
It can get incredibly expensive. You are looking at $35,000, about $35,000 in this photo, or in my video of 3D printers, 3D printed materials, 3D, all that stuff. About 35 grand in this photo. And it can get expensive. Now, this is a business. We made profit. And your kid may not do that. That is A-okay. They don't have to.
What I would say is...
Great way to learn entrepreneurship, though.
Like, I don't know, I can't even think how much I spend on film, and it depends on the month. But a spool of filament around $20, give or take.
And how many prints can you get out of a spool of filament? Because we get that question asked all the time.
It depends.
About one spool's worth.
For me, I could get about a week and a half worth of prints.
Holy cow, you're printing a lot. I know that's a lot.
Not even a week and a half. That's on a slow week. I go through a spool in less than a week.
If we're printing heavy, we're going through a spool per printer per day.
Well, yeah, no, like I expected like the business that is running prints all the time to do it, but that means Justin is also like just cranking. One printer, right, Justin?
Yeah.
So is it just running all the time in perpetuity? It's just always on. Oh my god.
Well, I got really burnt out from 3D printing, probably because I printed over 1,500 face shields on a single printer.
Oh my god.
That's right.
That is a thing that you did.
Not that long. It wasn't that long. It was
We
maybe a
did
month and a half.
Okay,
Not
so
even.
we did a little over 1,500 in 3 weeks.
Okay, so
Whew.
And
On
we
one
did
printer.
not have
Scale,
the
though.
Fusion 3 back then, so it was the 4 Prusas you see and the Taz. We left a couple other Prusas off for customer work. But yeah, we ran those machines 3 shifts 24/7. I still have some laying around.
I actually like kind of
and
relate
it was
to
a
this.
one-man show. I was up until like midnight. I'd
Yeah.
sleep for a couple hours, go grab a print, and then keep
But
going.
you're 16.
Jesus.
That's what you do when you're 16. I'm 31. I can't do that.
I like weirdly relate to this because like a lot of my days will be like if I'm pulling renders for like effects stuff or like just I'm pulling renders out of Blender or Cinema 4D. It's like I'll hit render and then I'm like, okay, time to either go do other work or like do whatever else until that's done.
Ignore the
And then I
computer
get
for 2
back.
hours.
Yeah, and then I get back, I switch cameras, and then I start another render, and I'm like, I guess the computer's just out for the count today because we're just rendering all day.
Justin, what are some tips or tricks that you could give as a minor who's in 3D printing for parents? Something that you've seen that you like, things that you've experienced that you don't. What are some tips and tricks that parents that want to support their kids, that want to get them a 3D printer but don't really know? What are some tips and tricks that you could give us to kind of wrap us up here?
Buy a Prusa, but yeah,
Thanks, Prusa. Thank you for sponsoring this episode, please. Thanks.
but please sponsor.
Thanks, guys.
B, start like scrolling through models if you have never even looked at like what a 3D model looks like.
That's a good
Prusa
one.
printers, Thingiverse, and then eventually you'll start learning how to design your own. See how much different filaments cost and what it will end up about costing you each year.
Yep.
Because it really depends. And then I had one before, I don't remember. Be patient. You will have lots of failures.
Patience is key, and that's something that you don't find with a lot of the younger generation. There's just because, no offense to you, Justin, but you've grown up in a world with Amazon, and that means that patience is not great. And I'm getting to a point where I'm like, I could pay this much to get it in a week, or I could pay $10 more and get it in 2 days. I'm paying the $10 more every time.
Dude, sometimes I don't even pay for express shipping. Like I bought a new mouse the other day and it was supposed to come next week and it came today on a Sunday. And
Yeah,
that's
USPS is finally like back to normal, and I'm so glad.
Dude, but it's so insane to me and I was so stoked. I was like, oh my God. And also, Grant, the new mouse I got, you can replace every piece of it so we can 3D print parts that can fit it.
Did you get the Cooler Master
No.
MM711?
No, I don't think so.
What did you get?
I don't know. It looks like a little honeycomb.
Like
Oh.
this?
Twinsies.
Oh, is that what it's called? Grant, I don't know the names of
What's it
these
say on the
products off
bottom
the
of
top
your
of my
mouse,
head.
Thomas?
It says I'm a mouse. That's weird.
I have a Cooler Master Master Mouse, and
This just says
it's full
Mira
RGB,
M.
as it should be.
I think RGB might I feel like I don't know. I have
didn't-
RGB because it exists, not because I want it.
You and your brother are the same way. Tad's like, I want a stealth build. I'm like, you can't get stealth these days. It's gotta come with
I know.
RGB.
When I plugged in this mouse and the RGB was on the wheel, I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, I'm off topic.
It's like Brad with the RGB printer.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great, though. I think that's funny. I like that a lot.
I was miffed when I had to return my RGB fans and put Noctuas in my computer, but I couldn't deal with the noise of the RGB fans, and you can feel the air current that's being pulled into my computer now because of those Noctuas. But nonetheless,
You got those hot Noctuas too, baby. There they. Ooh,
You got
let's go.
the hamburger Noctuas? Nah, man.
Hell
I got
yeah,
I got the
baby.
gray ones because
Mm-mm.
I'm cheap and I
Hamburger.
bought their Redux ones rather than I bought the $13 a fans rather than the $20 a fans because I needed 4 of them.
Yeah.
But hamburger fans all day. That's
The
right.
Prisas have them?
Let's go.
My
they
Prusa has them,
Well, they have black ones now.
but
The
mine
Mark
has the hamburger.
IIIs, yeah, the Mark IIIs came with hamburger fans. If you don't know the hamburger fan, Noctua's color scheme is like this hamburger bun,
It's like brown.
yellow,
Super
brown,
weird.
and then the middle of it is like a dark pink
brown.
purple. So
Yeah,
it looks
I like
like
it.
ground beef. It's a hamburger
That's great.
fan. Hamburger
love it,
fan
man.
master race. I have a Noctua and an HD 15 as my main cooler. and
Yeah.
that's a big some gun. But
And they're
yes.
silent.
Oh yeah, they're dead
They
silent.
are so quiet.
What
Yeah,
else? What else can we leave since we hit Noctua? What else can we leave our viewers and listeners with as our final send off? Anything else?
Oh man.
Have fun with it.
Yeah.
You'll learn something if you just have fun with it. Don't think of it as you're trying to learn something. You'll learn something if you just play around and have fun with it.
Yep. My biggest
That's great
recommendation:
advice.
if you do get a Prusa Mark III-S, buy the kit. Buy
and
the
then buy
kit.
some Prusament because it's expensive to ship it and it's like amazing filament, but it's
Atomic
expensive.
filament is just as
Or
good.
Atomic.
far
I love
as
Jesse PLA. That's some of my new favorite.
If you get Jesse PLA, make sure you get Brad's
Get Brad's
Orange, because $1 from every sale of Brad's Orange gets donated to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I happen to have a limited edition Brad's Orange right here that was spooled when Brad was in Delaware. When he went to Printed Solid to make this. It's one of the first few spools that came off the line.
That's
I'll
awesome.
never print it, and I know that really upsets Brad, but it's special to me, okay?
Dang it. I was about to be like, hey, can you print me some croc gibbets in Brad's Orange?
I'll
That one.
buy more Brad's Orange.
Buy
I don't
some.
care.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, good
That's
filament
awesome.
matters so much. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it matters a lot less now than it did previously. Like when we get customers that ask for very specific stuff, we always buy from Atomic for them. If you just say, hey, I want red, you're probably getting Zyaltech filament. Zyaltech is not bad filament. It's cheap. Code 3DM for 15% off of your entire order at Zyaltech.com. Yes, we have an affiliate program with Zyaltech. But that's really because I buy it for local people, but I'm going to be putting a 30-kilo order with them, and I do one of those every month or so.
Good lord.
Yeah, I don't print that much, Grant.
Tom,
Not that much.
here, I'm going to I'm under an NDA. I can't show that part. I was going to show you a part that takes half a kilo on its own, and we did 5 of them.
Woo!
Yeah. $1,000 worth of 3D printing. Let's go. Right at the end of January. Gotta love that.
Yeah.
Profits are good on it, too, because it was paid for from another project. It was spare from another project. But yeah, Zyaltech filament's not bad. We love Atomic. Their Starry Night is my favorite color. Sorry, Brad. I love Brad's Orange, but I've loved Starry Night for many years prior. And they just came out with their carbon fiber filament. If you are a newbie, stay away from filled filaments. That's something we should let people know. Do not get carbon fiber filled filaments
wood
until
fill.
you understand it.
Or
Glow filament, too. Stay away from those.
Yeah. And wood fill. What else? There's
Any
a few.
filled material.
Yeah.
If it has fill in it, don't.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Stick with PLA and PET G for the first month.
PET G, that's PETG. Soda bottles are made out of PETE. Basically, it's the same thing. I'm not going to go into why they're different, but it's basically the same thing.
One allows it to print.
Yes, start with PLA. PLA will have a very mild, sweet smell. Do understand, and I'm going to caution you right at the end of the episode, because I spoke to a gentleman from Underwriter Laboratories for like an hour and a half at the Women in 3D Printing Convention, because, yeah, dudes are allowed to go to that too.
You're a woman?
It's 2021, and we don't need to go over these things. No, guys were allowed to go there, but it was, all the panelists were women. SJ was a panelist, pretty dope. But I spoke to an individual from Underwriter Laboratories, and, he's like, you have all these printers in the background. What about your air filtration? I said, I'm good. He's like, are you sure? What about all the latent particles? I'm like, dude, I'm not standing over the 3D printer just doing lines of the fumes coming off of it. I'm okay. Generally speaking, if you can smell your 3D printer, it is not good. So, do not leave 3D printers in bedrooms. Put them in rooms where they can be watched, right? But from a distance. Socially distance from your 3D printer when it is operating. If
Put a
you
mask on your printer.
Don't do that. That's how you cause problems. If you have air filters, change them often. I checked my air filter for the house, and I don't want to talk about how long it's been. I now have Google reminders to remind myself when changing. Oddly, the air quality that you're used to is probably not all that great. Adding filters into your home will be better, but VOC filters specifically, those will be really good for helping with some of the 3D printing fumes. PLA to me smells incredibly sweet. I love the smell because it's corn syrup. It smells like sugar. PETG, I've never had a smell from it. I don't ever smell it. ABS stinks, and I hate it, and we don't print it. Oh, we only print it on the Fusion 3 because it has a HEPA and a VOC and a carbon filter all built into it in the back.
Don't print ABS unless you absolutely have to, and none of you will have to.
And if you do have to, you should be reaching out to 3D Musketeers, because we can make those parts for you so you don't hurt yourself, because, you know, we have safety and stuff. Yeah. Safety.
Infrastructure.
It's a concern, I promise.
Safety third.
Right? You know, the AVE method of safety. Safety squints, 2 condoms, mother on speed dial. Those are very bad things to do, except mother on speed dial, because you should always call your parents. You should, and even if you're a parent listening, call your parents if they're still around. Remind them that you're still here. Call your relatives. Let them know that you love them. And if you want to make awesome, you can reach out to us at 3D Musketeers. Links will be in the description. Justin, is there anything that you want to plug? Maybe an Etsy store or something before we...
Well, I don't have Twitters anymore because reasons.
Twitter, TBD.
Yeah, if I ever get my account back.
Anything else you want to...
Oh, no.
My Etsy is simply 3D Print Shop. I'll put a link so you can put it in the bio or whatever. Yeah. And I just sell a couple little things on there, and more coming soon.
Go support them. We'll have links to the Discords as well in the description. So if you are interested in getting involved in the community, that you can do so. My name's Grant. We got Justin. We got Thomas. Tad is unfortunately missing. But as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. And oh yeah, call your freaking relatives. Bye.